The Flagstaff wind was persistent, chilly, and scraping. It screamed through the eaves, rattled the gutters, and disturbed the quiet inside Cody Brown's almost deserted house as it brushed across the windows like a live creature. The house didn't seem like home anymore. The kids had left. The wives had left. The laughing, the footfall, the vitality, the warmth that once hung from the kitchen, all of it was gone. His frantic pacing was now accompanied only by the creak of floors and the sound of the wind. It had been days since he shaved. Sunken into the features of a face that had once looked authoritative on national television, his eyes were vacant. Cody now appeared to be a guy plagued by the specters of decisions that had finally arrived, devoid of producers, cosmetics, and narrative control. On the edge of the counter, a leaning pile of bills, legal threats, past-due letters, and red-lettered envelopes were piled up. Without reading, he took a quick look at them. He was already aware of their words. Every morning, the same tune played: demand for payment, foreclosure, default. Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel, TLC Flicks. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Coyote Pass's terrain remained bare and underdeveloped. Even if it had cost him everything, the idea of creating one large house or multiple smaller ones for each of his wives had only ever existed in his mind. TLC was reducing its operations. The ratings had fallen. The sponsors had withdrawn. Cody was now in a tight spot as Robin became anxious over the IRS notices that were coming in every day, and Christine and Janelle were both cutting off their financial and legal connections. And Cody did what he always did when he was cornered. He plotted. He took out his phone and sat down at the table, which was scarred and scratched from years of family dinners. Meri's name in his contacts caught his attention. Her fuzzy profile picture from years ago, with her eyes still far away, was still there. It had been months since they had spoken. Her phone number had changed. Blocked him. Closed all the doors he attempted to enter covertly. However, he had discovered a solution. In fact, he had written her 3 letters, more desperate than the others. The first had been passed off as a helping hand. The second is an appeal for solidarity. Clearly transactional is the third. It stated, "I need help. We are related. A portion of the land is still yours. There is something we can rebuild if we cooperate. I can restart things, but I need your help, even only temporarily. This is something we can resolve. We can, I'm sure." He had not heard back. However, a parcel arrived via certified mail that morning while the wind was still tearing at the house and his phone was still silent. It was a thick envelope. Classy. There was no mistaking her handwriting. His heart skipped a beat, not because he loved her, but because he thought she could be breaking. That after reading the letter, she recalled the years, the children, the loyalty, and the brand they had created together. That she may have had the capacity to forgive him. Instead, he discovered a cease and desist letter from her lawyer. Unambiguous. Firm. Legally enforceable. Cody held the letter like a foreign thing that could burn him as he sat motionless in his chair. His expression changed from amazement to fury to a hint of something more profound. Fear. Not only of her quiet, but also of its significance. Meri would not return. Not right now. Never. Meri Brown opened her windows to let in the crisp spring air in the sleepy town of Parowan, Utah, 300 miles distant. Lizzie's Heritage Inn, her bed and breakfast, was a tribute to everything she had rebuilt herself, standing tall and sturdy against the clear blue sky. Over the subtle creak of old wood, the aroma of warm bread, wildflowers, and lemon cleanser wafted through the house. Standing before the mirror, Meri tied a delicate green scarf around her neck, allowing the edges to flutter in the breeze. Her security system alerted her when her phone buzzed once. Without looking, she brushed it aside. She had nothing to be afraid of. The place was suddenly a haven. No more. She was different. The lady who had pleaded for crumbs of love from a guy who used distance to punish and silence to manipulate was no more. The woman who swallowed her voice to preserve the appearance of harmony and once attempted to justify her loneliness on national television was no longer there. That Meri was buried behind months of rediscovering, hours of treatment, and journals of recovery. A woman who had been reincarnated stood in her place. With her coffee mug in hand, she went downstairs and out onto the porch. The early light glistened on the distant mountains. She took a deep breath of silence. Then, with a pale expression, her helper went outside. She held up a letter that Cody had mailed a few days prior and muttered, "It came." Meri accepted it silently. She did not shake her hands. A foreclosure notice for the Flagstaff house was inside, with Cody's desperate scribble, "Help me," across the reverse. "The land still has your name on it. We must act quickly. I can't waste any more." Something inside of her suddenly exploded at that instant, not in a disorganized manner, but rather in a sudden, crystal-clear epiphany. He was still the same person. She was not missed by him. He missed her ability to clean up the mess he made, her name, her money, and her association. And he believed she would save him now that he was in ruin. He misjudged her. Once more, Meri went live on Instagram that evening. Her tone was cool, collected, and strong. She had a straightforward message. Although she didn't have to, she didn't mention names. Her audience was aware. For more than 10 years, they had followed her path. They had witnessed the forced smiles, the silent weeping, and the confessionals in which her eyes spoke for her when her tongue would never. They could see her clarity now. She talked about manipulation masquerading as protection and treachery masquerading as love, of a man who saw her only when she provided him with something he needed. And she said the most crucial thing of all, "I am not a fallback option. Your lifeline is not me. I'm not returning." The soft beige comforter behind Robin was unmade and crumpled as she sat on the edge of her bed. The bags beneath her eyes were becoming more difficult to hide, and the corners of her normally flawless makeup were smudged. Her house used to be a picture-perfect place, with candles burning constantly, lavender-scented air diffusers, and a family's picture-perfect smiles on show. However, that was prior to the producers of the show ceasing to call, prior to the crew's disappearance, prior to the funds running out. The house now had the feel of a tomb. No more laughs. Lifeless. Sensing the trembling in the walls, the instability that had fallen like a cloud no air purifier could clear, her youngest children clung to her more firmly. Robin froze each time someone knocked on the door. Was it someone who collected debt? One more legal notice? One of the elder children for whom she had no more answers? Her phone was still showing the live replay of Meri's Instagram video on the coffee table. She had previously seen it 3 times. Words were like blades. "I am not a fallback option." She was troubled by the line. Because Robin knew in her heart. She wasn't merely witnessing Meri's liberation. She was witnessing the start of Cody's demise, and consequently, her own. She was the one who had held on to the fantasy the longest. Listen to Cody's assurance that everything will be resolved. They would build that Coyote Pass. That the program would go on indefinitely. That even after Christine, Janelle, and Meri left, the family could manage to stay together. Cody, however, hadn't stood up for any of them. With his conceit, his ego, and his incapacity to listen, he had allowed them to drift, or worse, push them away. She was all he had left now, and the weight of him was beginning to choke even her. After years of high 6-figure incomes, she had entered their shared bank account the week before and discovered that there was less than $2,000 left, which was dangerously low. The majority of the funds had been used for unsuccessful business endeavors, land taxes, legal bills, and Cody's more frantic attempts to maintain a way of life that had vanished. To find a real estate miracle worker in Arizona, he had hired a private investigator for about $10,000. An additional $15,000 was paid to an image consultant who assured him that he would relaunch himself as a motivational speaker. Neither endeavor had produced a dollar. And Robin had finally challenged him when the final statement showed a bounce check to the landscaper and overdraft costs that were increasing hourly. That evening, as she sat next to him on the couch with her fingers shaking around the envelope, she muttered, "Cody, we're not okay. We aren't even near." Her eyes had not met Cody's. All he could say was, "Meri is being obstinate. She will change her mind. She always does." Robin's mouth clenched. Her voice was colder than he had ever heard her say, "No, she won't. You overreached her. Everyone was pushed too far by you." Then, with the venom of a man whose world was closing in on him, he turned on her without resorting to violence. "So I'm to blame now? It was you who instructed me to cease interacting with Janelle. also the one who resisted being used at this point. Janelle didn't scream when she learned about Kody's most recent desperate play, first through a barrage of texts from her kids, and then through a call from Meri herself. She refrained from crying. She didn't even use profanity. Rather, she poured herself a cup of black coffee, turned on her laptop, and retrieved all the documents she still had on hand on the joint assets and Coyote Pass. She created the final strike folder. She started assembling a case inside, not only for herself, but also for the others who had been abandoned. It contained all of the remaining documents that connected them to the land, the show, and the collapse. Property deeds, court documents, receipts, email exchanges, and screenshots. She then called one last person, a trustworthy journalist. Someone with empathy who had previously covered the family. Although she left out important details, she made enough of a clue when she said, "It's time people realize the truth about how this fell apart." Christine wasn't the only one leaving. There were more than simply artistic disagreements with TLC. Financial lies were told. Manipulations. Desperation disguised as morality. "I will no longer remain silent." Confidentiality was assured by the reporter. But headlines started to appear a few days later. Kody Brown of Sister Wives is in financial ruin after allegedly attempting to extort money from Meri. Kody Brown's ex-wives report emotional blackmail and manipulation. Coyote Pass land faces foreclosure, deepening effects on Brown family. Kody made an effort to refute the reports on social media. In his meandering videos, he accused Meri, the media, Janelle's children, and even alluded to legal action. However, it was too late. The floods were now open, and the unvarnished truth was now being revealed to the globe. The trees outside Lizzie's heritage inn were bathed in gentle golden hues as the sun rose over Pero and Utah. With a coffee mug in hand, Meri stood by the front window and observed the light coming in through the lace curtains. There was silence. Calm. It was the sort of morning she had hoped for all those tumultuous years in Flagstaff. Years of stress, heartache, and the never-ending pain of being passed over. She was picking herself now. On the table, her phone buzzed. Her Instagram Live from the previous evening was still receiving a ton of messages. There are currently over 2 million views. It had been reported by news outlets. Every phrase was being analyzed by influencers. Tears, cheers, and tales of their own betrayals were posted in the comments section by fans. It had touched a nerve. Not only with strangers either. Christine had sent a straightforward text, "I'm proud of you. It's about damn time." In response, Janelle said, "He's unraveling. Be prepared." Even Janelle's daughter Maddie, who had long doubted Meri, wrote a direct message that said, "You did good." However, one name was missing from the feed. Cody. He hadn't sent her a message. Hadn't given a call. Not right away. Robin, however, had contacted her. A voice memo. It lasts for 2 minutes. Hesitant. Broken. A twinge of something like terror. She had finished the game. "I'm over being shamed into keeping quiet." She no longer needed to rely on the program or anyone called Brown because her inn was finally thriving on its own, with bookings rising each month and her clothing line's online sales greater than ever. She had freedom. She descended the inn's stairs that morning and entered the kitchen, where her helper, Kate, was already getting ready for the day. "Everything is set for the press conference," Kate smiled. "At 11, we will be live streaming from the patio. Your attorney is ready if things become ugly." Meri gave a nod. She was not afraid. Just resolve. Kody roamed the living room like a solitary beast back in Flagstaff. Behind him, the fireplace crackled, but he was unable to sense the warmth. Red was all he could see. The headlines were getting out of hand. Days had passed since the phone stopped ringing. TLC executives had called him twice, first to inquire about the veracity of the claims, and then to let him know that all further filming had been formally put on hold until further notice. His throat went raw as he screamed into the phone, blamed everyone but himself. He then took a seat in the dark and started crying. He had never lost before. The man who could manage 4 women and 14 children, and yet appear endearing on national television, had been the golden boy of polygamy for years. However, the curtain had suddenly been drawn back. The tampering was visible to the public. The command. The emotional carelessness. Even his own kids were rebelling against him. What little foundation was left had been destroyed by Garrison's passing. Gabe no longer talked to him much. Hunter had entirely moved on. At her college graduation, Janelle was informed by Savannah, his quiet but devoted daughter, that she wasn't sure she wanted Kody. Additionally, Meri had disarmed him in public. He was by himself. Broke. Irrelevant. He screamed and smashed his fists against the table. Unnoticed, Robin flinched in the corridor, covering her mouth with her palm. He was unlike anything she had ever seen. And then she became aware of something horrifying. She could be stuck. Several sites streamed the press conference live. As Meri took the mic, the sun shone on the terrace of Lizzie's Heritage Inn. Her serene, determined face was framed by lovely hair and a rich green blouse. She spoke in a level tone. Her message is obvious. I want to express my gratitude to everyone for their tremendous support over the last few days. I told the truth because I would no longer allow my silence to be used as a weapon, not for show or retaliation. After pausing, she said, Kody Brown attempted to coerce me into getting back into a long-distance relationship, not out of love, but out of financial need. No, I replied, and I'll continue to refuse. I am not a band-aid for that reason. I'm not a fallback option. I deserve better since I am a complete person. Even the villagers who were observing from behind the cameras applauded. I will no longer remain silent, she added. Additionally, I refuse to allow him to change history to suit his own interests. I have documents. I have deadlines. I am aware of the private conversations. And I'll tell everything if this continues. It was an obvious message. Kody had two options: try to fight and lose even more, or quietly sink into obscurity. And there's more. On the TLC show Sister Wives, Kody Brown's polygamous household has been slowly falling apart. When Kody proposed taking a fourth wife, Robin, into consideration, his relationship with his first three wives, Meri Brown, Christine Brown, and Janelle Brown, became tense. The show followed the Brown family as the four women bravely tried to share the family patriarch, who pushed himself to the limit trying to spend equal time with his wife, without succumbing to the temptation of favoritism. Meri, Christine, and Janelle, who gradually started to observe their shared husband's fondness for his most recent wife, claimed that he did, nevertheless, play favorites. Kody and Robin were left in a monogamous relationship after resentments eventually boiled over and caused three wives to split from their once shared spouse. As the one-on-one episodes of Season 19 come to an end, Robin has become bitter that her name keeps coming up in the talk, and the women continue to blame Robin for the strife in their relationship with Kody. The women's wrath should be directed at the person who is actually to fault for the series of separations, even though they cannot agree on who among them is to blame for the relationship's turmoil. It's evident from the way Meri, Christine, and Janelle spoke about their marriages ending with Kody that they believe he gave up on them before the ladies made the decision to leave. Since Kody had deserted his marriage, Meri requested a spiritual release from him, which is their church's equivalent of a divorce. This confirmed what the women had been stating, which was that Kody had not divided his time fairly among his numerous marriages, but had instead been entirely preoccupied with Robin and their kids. The first wife to formally depart was Christine, who declared in November 2021 that she was ending her 26-year marriage to Kody. Janelle would follow in Christine's footsteps about a year later, though her break was less tidy than Christine's because she and Meri were still embroiled in a land dispute with Kody. Meri left soon after Christine and Janelle did, and all three of the first spouses insisted that Kody had failed to fulfill his responsibilities as a husband before they made the decision to end the marriage. The one-on-one interviews, which usually offer more context for particular scenes from the season, have been annoying viewers as Season 19 draws to a conclusion. Viewers have accused Robin and Kody of avoiding inquiries and denying any responsibility for the family's marital breakdown. Since he has been obstinate in his refusal to patch things up with his children from his first three marriages, Kody in particular has come under heavy fire. Throughout Season 19, Robin repeatedly sidesteps questions posed by host Sukanya Krishnan in the first two one-on-one shows. However, people have taken notice of her response to one alleged snub from Janelle. Robin was once described by Janelle as the sacred cow who was receiving all of Kody's attention. Robin tried to jest by sarcastically saying moo, but then she laughed and said, "I don't know. when Sukanya asked how she felt about the remark. "In any case, I don't give a damn." Although it's unclear whether Janelle intended for the remark to be insulting to Robin, given that she was pointing out how Kody put Robin first, it appears to have hurt. Despite Janelle's explicit statement that she no longer enjoyed Robin and Kody's company, this comment exemplifies a recurring issue with the sister wives. The women become preoccupied with blaming one another when Kody is actually at fault. In the one-on-ones, the wives said that, according to their religion, the husband has an obligation to keep up a relationship with each wife and to deal with any breakdowns. The obvious cause of the family's strife is Kody's decision to put his relationship with Robin first, and Robin and Kody's inability to accept this truth is the reason he keeps avoiding accountability while their future on the show is in question. Sukanya Krishnan, the one-on-one presenter of Sister Wives, was questioned by the reality star during the most recent episode, giving fans hope after years of berating her for failing to hold Kody Brown accountable. In the season 19 finale's second episode, Krishnan referred to the patriarch of the Brown family as a baby and talked about how he was reluctant to answer some questions. Kody attempted to control the host's questioning in one especially heated argument. "I could shut you down if I wanted to," he said to her. "No, you can't," the host asserted. Kody responded with a clap. "Yes, I can." He was then silenced by the newswoman, who said, "All right, or you could stop being such a baby and talk like the rest of us." Fans praised her for confronting the reality star about his behavior and what seemed to be a rewritten history about his marriages, Robin, Meri, Christine, and Janelle Brown. Sister Wives fans were relieved on Reddit that Krishnan finally came up after years of feeling that she allowed Kody and Robin to avoid difficult issues. In a post about the second episode of the season's one-on-one interviews, they expressed their feelings. "I'm so proud of Suki for expressing that." One fan wrote, "He's getting paid to do a job and he's crossing his arms refusing to do it," wrote a second. In all honesty, the interview is excellent since Suki made it clear that Robin is the sacred cow and that he will not respond to inquiries about her. Shown that Janelle and Christine were right by not responding. According to a third admirer, Suki calling him a baby is priceless. Lastly, a fourth person wrote, "Are we going to compete in a stare down? So I'll simply return the stare." Suki is at last here. The journalist is hosting the Sister Wives one-on-one episodes for the fourth season. Fans have previously criticized her for not being more strict with Kody and Robin. She seems to have adopted a new position this season, though, and has stepped up her criticism of both. In these interviews, Krishnan has mostly said nothing in response to fans' comments about her treatment of the Brown family. "My biggest criticism is not so much that you don't ask the hard questions, but that you explain too much to Kody," she said to a fan's comment on her Instagram in 2023. "I wish you would stop directing his responses and instead allow him and Robin speak." Since her debut on Sister Wives, Janelle Brown's life has undergone significant change, but she isn't scared of the unknown. Joining his first wife, Meri Brown, in the family's religious practice of multiple marriages, Janelle wed Kody Brown in 1993. Kody quickly acquired Christine Brown as a second wife, and in season 1, he wed Robin Brown, his fourth and last wife. Janelle and Kody had 6 kids together. While Christine took over to assist with child-rearing, Janelle was able to pursue her work outside the home because to their plural marriage. Regretfully, Janelle and Kody's marriage wasn't always simple. After moving to Flagstaff, Arizona, the couple started having unusual yelling matches and drifted apart. Janelle was pushed over the brink, though, by Kody's bond with his kids. Janelle had to prioritize her kids after Kody became distant from their sons and refused to make concessions. In late 2022, she declared her marriage was over. Janelle has been adjusting to life on her own terms since leaving Kody. She moved across the nation to start a farming business in North Carolina. Janelle is currently doing well on her own and is aware that the best is still to come. Host Sukanya Krishnan asked Janelle how she would characterize her life as a movie during the Sister Wives Season 19 one-on-one special. Janelle declared without hesitation that she would play fried green tomatoes Evelyn Couch. Regarding Evelyn, she said, "She's going to start over. She is going to take control." The 1991 movie depicts Kathy Bates's character Evelyn as she realizes the limitless opportunities that lie ahead of her and escapes her sad life. Like Evelyn, Janelle took control of her own destiny after enduring years of an unhappy marriage out of duty. Given that fried green tomatoes is also situated in the southeast of the US, the analogy also alludes to Janelle's new life in North Carolina. Sukanya was grateful for Janelle's offer, but she had another tale of rebirth in mind. Sukanya compared Janelle's situation to Eat, Pray, Love, a book that chronicled author Elizabeth Gilbert's global travels following a challenging divorce. Janelle said, "I could do that," embracing the notion. "Would you please let me do that?" Janelle shares Elizabeth's desire to travel. She moved around a lot during their nearly 30-year marriage since she was content to do as Cody asked. For a short time, Janelle even resided in an RV on the family's isolated Flagstaff property. She recognizes that her happiness must come from within and isn't bound by locations or material belongings. Janelle's desire to go on an eat, pray, love-style excursion is a perfect example of her love of freedom and adventure, two qualities that are essential to her new existence as a single woman. Janelle's sunny self-esteem is demonstrated by her identification with Evelyn. She thought the best was yet to come. Janelle was prepared to let go of everything she had experienced in order to pursue happiness. Janelle found her inspiration in her children, whilst Evelyn drew inspiration from other women. Janelle realized she no longer owed Cody her devotion after he abandoned his bond with his children. Janelle seems to be thriving in her new life in North Carolina. Her children and grandkids are all around her, which makes her feel at home despite her new beginning. Gardening has always been Janelle's passion, and her enormous commitment in her own aspirations is evidence of her unwavering self-worth. Janelle has had a remarkable metamorphosis. She has been the most positive character on Sister Wives Season 19, and it is encouraging to witness her optimism about the future. David, she wasn't given much attention in the most recent season. Given her lack of involvement with Cody, Christine's sparse appearance on Sister Wives Season 19 raises the possibility that she will cease producing future seasons. Christine is happily married to David and has moved on from Cody. In Utah, far from Cody's home, Christine and David are creating a lovely life. Despite her outspokenness, there isn't much drama in her plot. Christine, it wouldn't be shocking if she left the show because she isn't really excited about dealing with other cast members like Robin, Cody, and Meri. It's possible that Janelle and Meri will finally turn away from the drama, which could mean Sister Wives ends in the upcoming year. Have you ever been so upset or depressed about anything that you choose to ignore it and act as though it didn't exist? Did it not occur? Yes, Sister Wives Cody Brown has as well. By claiming that he never truly loved his ex-wives, the polygamous patriarch is downplaying his suffering. Let us know in your comments. And stay tuned by subscribing our channel to get more updates like this. Thanks everyone.